Hey y'all, hi! It's finally Angry Eyes Day. So I've been talking a big game about how often I've just been slapping on a whole bunch of greasy, smudgy, inky, gunky eye makeup. These days tinged with green because I built myself this little palette to support the project of Angry Eyes most days, and there are undertones of green in a lot of these shadows. I've been talking a big game about doing that, and then not only have I not demonstrated what I've been doing really yet on YouTube, except for a little bit accidentally in my Lady Gaga makeup review, but I also haven't been wearing this look on camera because this is kind of like it's what I have been doing on no makeup days instead of like simple, clean, fresh looks. Because no makeup days, a lot of times it's days when I just feel like I cannot. And lately, those days, feeling like I just cannot, have correlated with feelings of anger. It's like the days when I just feel blocked and stuck and so frustrated and hopeless. I've been putting on eye makeup like this as a way of venting those feelings instead of doing nothing because it makes me feel stronger. And it's been hard to feel strong lately, you know? It's been hard to feel a sense of power. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that usually those days when I feel like I cannot are days when I don't film, because it's also harder to show up like this when I'm feeling my worst in that way. And consequently, you haven't really gotten to see the angry eyes very much, if at all, at least not in the way that I've been doing them. So I decided today to sit down and take you through the entire process, how it is I've been putting this makeup on, what I've been doing. It comes out a little bit different every time. This is a pretty good representation, if not maybe a slightly more glamorous representation of what it often is. Sometimes a lot less symmetrical and a lot grungier than this. But the overall shape of the look, especially the shape of like how I put the look on and the steps that I went through to get this look, which you're about to see, is a good representation of HLP Angry Eyes 2022. If this happens to be your first time to my channel, then I'm really glad you're here. My name is Hannah. I love makeup. I try not to promote overspending. I think you can love beauty without buying too much. So it's like quality over quantity. Techniques matter more than what you buy. That's the deal. If you love it, please subscribe. And now let's go ahead and get into the meat of the video. Okay, we're zoomed in. I have like a light base, mostly green color corrector, brows, tiny bit of powder and spot conceal, just so that I feel like I have myself together a little bit for this part of the video, but I will finish the look after I do the eyes. Also, I didn't put much base on, especially on my cheeks and underneath my eyes, because with this kind of a look, the chances that I'm going to have to clean up some fallout are higher. I'm going to start by priming. This is the primer that I use just because I have it, because they sent it to me in PR. It works, but it's not as though I picked it because I feel like it's the best. It's just what I have. Here's the little palette that I built specifically to support this kind of look. I'm going to start with Sydney Grace Defiance, which is this eyeshadow. It's a really deep, creamy, gleamy, kind of brownish olive. Using my finger, I'm going to put it all over both lids. Then I'm going to buff it out with a brush. With pretty much every step for this look, symmetry is not exactly the goal. And I am also not trying to be precise in any way, because usually when I do this makeup, I'm actually trying to get it done pretty fast. Because part of feeling kind of blocked and stuck and angry is not really feeling like sinking into that space of care and meticulousness. I've actually felt like I don't have it in me to spend time perfecting the look. So I'm going to try to replicate that process today by putting this swiftly and asymmetrically all over both lids, and then using a little brush to blend it out all over both lids, and at that same time taking more of it on that brush to blend out on my lower lash line. We'll go from 0 to 60 really fast, and that will be the base of the look, and then from there I'll tinker with it. Okay, so that's the base of the look, just using that one eyeshadow. As I almost always do when I do eyeshadow, I'm just using rougher brushes. I used this fluffier brush a little bit. I'm not sure what the number of this one is because the one I have was a prototype, although I think it has since become something that they carry. But if I can find it, I'll link it below. And the other two brushes I used were the 13 and the 03. I used the 03, it's a pencil brush, so that's just for applying shadow to the lower lash line. And then I used the 13 working to blur and blend all around the edges of the entire look on the upper and lower lash lines and lids. So for a look like this, I think of this kind of as like the gesso on the canvas. This is just like laying down the base. And if you can believe it, I'm going to get even smokier than this in some parts of the look, but I'm going to create contrast in the other direction as well by adding light to some parts of the look. I usually start though with the deep dark end, and that's what I'm going to do today. First with eyeliner, I shopped my stash for this little nubbin of Urban Decay Persuasion, the 24/7 slide-on glide-on in a deep dark black. So I'm going to put this all over my upper and lower lash lines. I'm also going to use it to kind of draw like a scribble in the outer corner of both lids and smudge that out with a pencil brush. And then I'm going to take the darkest shade that I have in here, which is this sort of, it's like a gleamy, shiny, blackened graphite, and use that to buff and smudge and blur everywhere that I've put the liner. So the liner, the Urban Decay liner, actually is pretty blendable and it sets down pretty firmly. And to me, adding a powder shadow on top of a cream liner like that is to help it blur, like to help blur and smudge the edges and get a much more buffed edge, and also to help it set. I found that this liner didn't need too much help with either of those things, but I'm still glad that I used the powder shadow, which is a depotted Juvia's Place shadow, because it added some glistening dimension to the deep, dark sort of well of black of the liner, which is super matte and super black. And having a layer of powder on top of the liner made it so that I could sort of pull and buff that way out to the edges and just make the overall thing a little bit more smoky. So now it's time to add some light back in. And I'm going to start with this Clionadh shade right here. It's the shade Ornamental. I'm going to put this on the middle of both lids just a little bit, and then I'm going to see what I can do to use this to sort of delicately spread more of a glistening finish over the edges of the look, the inner corner, parts of the look that I feel like could use some dimension, but without obscuring what's underneath too much. If I were just doing this, to get through the day, I might actually stop here because I think that there's this like punch of power, but there's also some artistic drama. The simplicity is striking as well. Throw on mascara and go. Because I'm demonstrating this, I feel kind of compelled to use some of the other eyeshadows. I'm going to keep going, but I just wanted to stop here and show you. I think that this is a really good example of like a variation on the theme of what I've been doing lately. So after stopping and telling you that I could have left it there, I just put a little bit more like in the inner corner and brought it up here, which is, I feel like it makes the look a little less wearable, but it's more dramatic. I also use some of it more on the outer edges of it to kind of blend out into my skin. Now I am going to use some of Weathered, which is the jeweled multichrome that I have in this palette, just to amp up what's in the very, very center of the lid. And honestly, I feel like I should probably pretty much stop there. I need to bring back some of the darkness. I feel like actually those layering shadows have done so much that we've lost a little bit of the total angriness actually of the angry eyes. So I'm going to go back into the graphite, sort of the dark black shiny graphite shadow from the Juvia's Place palette with my pencil brush and just I'm going to help the lower lash line and the outer corners to take up a little bit more space and assert themselves a little bit more. Okay, so there we are with just the eyes done. I went ahead and cleaned up a little bit of fallout because I didn't think there was going to be any more fallout after that. I'm probably not going to use any more eyeshadow at this point. I did that by wiping the fallout and pretty much everything that was underneath it, which was just a little bit of green color corrector and primer, wiping it off underneath both eyes. And then I just applied a dot of concealer and a dot of green color corrector to each side and blended it out with a pretty big brush to get a pretty diffuse blend. One of the good things about having a light base with a look like this is that even if you have to do repair work like that, what you reapply just like blends into what's there. It's not a situation where everything is layered and packed in this perfect sealed over application. I also feel like with a really dramatic look like this, the look of real skin, blemished skin, uneven skin is a good balancing factor. And again, a lot of the times when I'm doing looks like this for the day, I just don't have it in me to do anything more precise, and that includes trying to make my skin look perfect. I applied a bunch of mascara. I'm using the Gucci mascara right now because I shopped my stash for it, and I find that it's pretty wispy on the first couple of applications. Then if you let it dry and go back in with a really gunky brush, you can get pretty thickly gunked up lashes. And I did try to take it past that point, but not too far. I didn't keep going and going because you kind of don't need to. One of the things about a look like this is that mascara helps to finish it, but mascara doesn't really take it from incomplete to complete. It's sort of like this very last cherry on top. The impact comes from the shadow itself. And I gave you a really close-up of the finished eye look so that you can see that up close. It's uneven. The inner corners are kind of gunky. The mascara too is quite gunky. It's the opposite of a paint by number look, and it's imprecise in every way. Close up, there are all sorts of things that one might consider flaws, but that is what the look is about. That is exactly what we're doing here. And I hope you can see that from this distance, it's you can't see, who cares? It doesn't look lopsided, but it still retains that quality of ease, not trying too hard, not pushing to fit everything into its spot, which I think is actually critical for a look like this, not just for how it looks, but how it feels to wear. What I'm trying to say is that something that looks maybe distressingly imperfect to you up close, if you're used to perfecting your eye makeup more, is necessary for it to retain this quality of ease from a distance. I am now going to finish the rest of my face, keeping all of those principles in mind. So I'm going to use just a light wash of the Kevyn Aucoin Neo Bronzer on my cheeks. This gives me a very natural flush. I've been appreciating that lately. I might powder a little bit just where it's getting quite dewy around my mouth, and I will put on a little bit of the Persona lip gloss in the shade Twilight. Okay, and that is it. That is a variation on the theme of angry eyes and the kind of look that I might wear with it. Although I must say that I've been wearing eye looks like this, using this palette and using some of my other eye makeup with much less polished and much less intentional supporting looks. I've worn eye looks like this with almost no makeup on the rest of my face, even just a tiny bit of green color corrector to cancel out my redness, but texture, crusty lips, no powder, kind of truly no makeup, and then this on the eyes. And it helps me when I catch sight of myself going about my day. It helps me. It helps to feel like the feelings on the inside manifested on the outside like this, in a way that's not about perfection and not even about beauty or trying to be my most beautiful self, not about fitting into a mold, not about trying, and not for anyone else. To look in the mirror, catch sight of myself, and feel that there's a fierceness about me because of that. Whereas the way that I've been feeling many days lately, if I have no makeup on, it gets to my eyes and it makes them sad, and I see myself and I see somebody who all the fight has gone out of. Kind of. And even though this is just makeup, and so, when you talk it through like that, essentially what I'm saying is that sometimes I'm using this eye look to cover up the fact that my eyes underneath are the eyes of somebody who is intermittently feeling hopeless, or the eyes of somebody whom the fight has gone out of. It's like a feedback loop, It's you see yourself looking like this, you see your angry eyes, and it kind of brings that flame back up again. And it gives me a little bit of something to hang on to that comes from inside myself. And we're going to do more than just sit around managing our emotions by using the tips and tricks of applying fierce makeup or taking good care of ourselves, putting ourselves together. We're going to do more than that. We're going to vote. We're going to get out and vote, and we're going to make sure that all of our family and friends do too. It's not just about how you feel. It's also about what you do. But how you feel when you're doing whatever it is you're doing or whatever it is you're preparing to do matters so much, I think, more than we often think that it does. So I hope that I have given you a tool today to help yourself in one of the ways that I've been helping myself. If you put on your angry eyes sometime in the next couple of weeks and you're on Instagram and you happen to post a picture of yourself with your angry eyes or a story of yourself with your angry eyes, please tag me in it, send it to me so that I can repost your story or whatever it is, or at least just see it. I would love to see that. Thank you so much for watching this video, y'all. I'm really glad you're here with me. And don't forget to take extra good care of yourself so that you can be the most effective version of yourself as you do your work in the world. And smash the patriarchy.